Welcome to Sick Baggers YouTube channel. I'm Steve. Today we're going to be installing the Arlen Ness 10-inch Method riser kit. It's a T-bar kit on this 2022 Road Glide ST. So this kit's going to cover from the 2014 up to the 23. If you have the 23.5 CVO, the 24 is going to be a completely different kit, and we'll have a video out on that soon. We already have two handlebar videos. If you have the 23 CVO or the 24, we got two different handlebar videos on that. Way easier to do on the 24s, but still very manageable to do at home as long as you have the right tools to get the job done. And by the way, all the tools that I'll be using today will be linked down in the description in case there's something specific that you need that you see in the video that you don't have. Now this 2022 Road Glide ST is being converted slowly into a performance bagger style Harley. We've already got a few videos on this bike. I'll put a link down in the description to that playlist if you want to check out the rest of the stuff that we've done on this particular bike. But for now, we're going to get those handlebars installed on this bike. So let's get over to the table and see exactly what we have to get this job done. So I have everything out here on the table that we need to get this job done. There's a few extra things on this table that I've added to make this a little bit easier. But like I said, this is the Arlen Ness Method kit. So you've got the Method triple tree top, you got the gauge housing cluster, and of course the 10-inch pullback riser. A couple of things that we added are the Alloy Arts heavy duty handlebar riser bushings. We'll be installing those, a couple of extensions for your thumb controls, and then of course a NAMS extension for the gauge controls. And then we've added a set of Vans grips. And when you're doing a Road Glide, I take those big long Road Glide perch clamps off and I add the smaller ones. These generally come on the Batwing fairings and Road Glides for some reason come with these big huge clamps, so we're going to put the small ones on, and we are going to be installing all of this with a set of Thrashin handlebars. And it's going to be a little bit of a lengthy video, so let's get the camera over here and let's get started. So there's one thing I want to mention real quick before we get into this. If you're going to be doing T-bars, you need to take your bike to Harley-Davidson and have it flash to CVO mode. Because we're going to be removing this ignition right here, it's no longer going to be used. So it has to be switched over to where this is not working anymore and your ignition is strictly on your switch. Since we're doing the handlebars, I'm going to go ahead and remove my saddlebag, take my seat off, pop this side cover off, and pull the main fuse. Once you have all that off, you've gained access to your main fuse. It's right here underneath the left-hand side cover. This big red one right here, just go ahead and pull that out, set it up there. Then we don't have to worry about throwing any codes when we start doing the electrical on this. So the very first thing we want to do is get this gauge cluster housing off. Right underneath your ignition right here, you got a little U-shaped cap. You're going to take a flathead screwdriver. You're going to go to the bottom middle section. You'll find a little bitty tab hole right there. You're going to push that in and push up at the same time. Be very careful that you don't break that tab. It does break pretty easy, but once you get it pulled up and off, you can pull it out like that. This is the notorious little tab that breaks all the time. Right here on each side of this, you got a Torx 25 screw, so we're going to go ahead and remove those. Now that the two screws are out, we can take this off, but we do have these three buttons, or they're blanks on each side, but they still have electrical plugs on the back side. So you're going to want to pull this up. You're going to kick this all the way over into the lock position, and then you can pull this up and off. But you're going to have to reach in here, disconnect the gauges, and then those two clips. So I'm going to take my flathead screwdriver just because I don't have very big fingernails, and I'm going to get to that center gauge cluster wire, and I'm going to pull it off. As you can see right there, it's just got two, one on each side. And then down here at the bottom, it's kind of a thumb push switch. This one over on this side is right on top, but for some reason, Harley thought it was a genius idea on this side to put it upside down. And if you got big fat fingers like I do, that thumb push clip is on the back side. And unplug it. So once we get done, we're left with this little back housing back here. It's just snapped together in the middle, but on both sides there's two of these bolts. It's going to be a Torx 40 bolt. It's going to be one on top, one on bottom. It's right in the side of the fork leg, so you want to get those bolts removed. So when you take those bottom two bolts out, make sure you hang on to the fender skirt. That's attached to the bottom of that, right? So you got the sides of that gauge cluster, and you got a top bolt here, and then you got a bottom bolt down here. Now once you have those four bolts removed, you got this little plastic plate that goes across here. You'll see some of your switch housing wires are connected to that. You're going to want to pop that off. You're just going to push down on one side, kind of pull on the other, and push it down. Now it's disconnected from that. Now you can take these snaps apart. There's no really easy way to do this. You just kind of pull until they pop. Just be careful if you got a painted interfering like this that you don't smack the interfering. And we'll get up here and just pop these apart. we can just simply pull these out. The next thing we want to do is get all of the wires that are attached to this plastic plate off. So what I like to do up here is you've got a single wire that's for your left side, the double wires for the right side, the throttle side. We're going to go ahead and push that little thumb piece in, and we're going to disconnect those. You really can't mess this up. If you just remember the single wire goes to the left and the double wire goes to the right, you'll be just fine. So over here, and then we've got another one here. We're going to disconnect this one. If I can get my big thumb on there. There we go. So we got that off the plate. Those are out of the way. That still leaves the remaining female sides connected to this plate, so we have to get those off. So on the back side, we want to pinch those little tabs with the needle nose, and then we can push down on there and it'll come off the plate. So we're going to do that on all three. Then down below that, you've got a couple of Christmas tree prongs that are kind of just poked through that plastic. We're going to take a little V-notch tool like this, and we're just going to pop those off. And you can label these if you want to as you go. Take a piece of tape, wrap it around it, mark on it what it goes to. Right here at the top, you've got this single black to black ground. We're going to go ahead and disconnect that. It's going to go down to the top of the triple tree, which we're going to be removing. So you need to make sure that that's off. Little 6-wire plug. It's very small. I have to use this little screwdriver again because I can't get my thumb to push that little thing down. But we're going to push that down and disconnect that. It's got kind of that yellow inside to it. So that's going to disconnect our wires from the handlebars. Right here you've got the wire that comes over to the side of your ignition. It's a little gray plug, so we're just going to take our thumb and we're going to push that off, disconnect that. We're not going to be needing that anymore, so you can actually tape this off if you want to. Just go ahead and throw some electric tape around that. Now if you follow your clutch cable and your brake cable down on both sides right underneath the tree, it's going to be zip tied right here underneath these perch bolts. So I'm going to sneak in here with a pair of side cutters and go ahead and cut those just like that, and that's going to free up that cable. Same thing on this side. You can get those zip ties out of there too. You're basically wanting to isolate all of these wires right here. When we take the handlebars off, that's going to come off with that. These are those 2 large Road Glide perch clamps that I was talking about earlier that we're going to be removing and putting the small ones on. This is going to be a Torx 27, 2 on this side and 2 on that side. Remember, this is going to release the perch from the handlebars, so we can just kind of let it gently hang down here to the side of the bike. You can wrap it up in a towel just to make sure you don't knead or kick it or anything, and smack it into your paint. This top bolt, we're going to get it out. We're going to take that front clamp off. We're going to let this gently hang down to the side. Same thing on this side. Grab this, grab the front, wiggle this one out just like that, and we're going to let it lay down just the same. Now we're ready to remove the bars. 1/4 inch Allen on these 4 perch clamps right here. So we're going to get this in, bust those loose. Make sure that you're kind of leaning into the bars so they don't fall back again, smacking your bike. Now we can take the perch clamp off, lift it up, slide it out, and the bars will come right off. So technically those handlebars are over there on the table and they're ready for me to switch everything out. But we're over here on the bike, we got our tools over here. So let's go ahead and remove the outer fairing and do the triple tree. That way when we get the bars done, all we have to do is walk them back over here and get them installed. First thing we're going to do is remove the 4 windshield bolts. On this piece, we're just going to put our hands inside the vent and pop it up and pull it off. Next thing we want to do right here, since we're on the top, is disconnect our turn signals. Those are very easy. If you have any other lighting on your fairing, it should pretty well be right up in here, so go ahead and get that disconnected as well. Next thing we're going to do is take a plastic pry tool like this. We're going to go to the inside, stick it inside the grill, and we're going to pop that up. And then we're going to slide this out. On the back side, you got 2 tabs that poke in these 2 little holes, and this side over here just kind of tucks in the edge. We're going to do that to both sides. Pop it up, pull it off. Right here on the side of your turn signals, you got a 3/16 Allen. We're going to go ahead and remove those, 1 on each side. You got this little wing right here. You got 2 screws in it, Torx 25. You only have to remove the bottom one, so the bottom one on each side. Right here underneath the speaker grill, you got a bolt there and a bolt there, Torx 27. I saved these two bolts for last so I can get in front of the fairing, reach over, take the bolts out, and then walk the fairing off. Then I can get in front, kind of push back up on it, and I can finish removing these by hand, because these are the last two screws holding this outer fairing on. So if we get in front of it, we don't have to worry about it falling. From here, you're just going to simply pull straight out on the outer fairing and get it removed. Now we're ready to take off our triple tree. You've got three main bolts, or pinch bolts. So you've got one up here and one on each side that goes around and tops your forks. It's going to be a 1/4 inch and a 15/16 up here on top. So we're going to bust the 1/4 inch loose first. All of this is going to come off as a whole. So we just want to kind of pull up on this. We're just going to work it from the center out to the edge. Just like that. And that whole piece will come off. So we got everything over here on the table. We're going to start converting everything. We got to get our gauges out of our gauge housing. It's going to be a Torx 25. Take out these three black bolts. Front side of this, you got these little chrome rings. These just pop off. They got a little foam on the back side of them. Go ahead and get rid of those. Going to take a 4mm and remove the screw in the middle. We've got two 4mm bolts in the back right here. Going to be the same. Just going to remove them. So now we got our top tree over here. I'm going to flip this over upside down. Like I said, we do have the heavy duty handlebar bushings that are going to go in here, and they are from Alloy Art. We're just going to take one of these. We're going to put it in the bottom on both sides. We flip it over to the other side. You're going to do the same thing here. Take a little rubber mallet like this, take your cup that comes with it, put it on there, give it a gentle tap, make sure that it's seated correctly all the way around, and then of course you have your stem. This piece here goes in the middle, and then of course your cap on top, and then your bolt's going to go through that and then into the riser. So at this point I basically hit stop recording when I thought I was hitting record, but this part was super easy, and I'm not going to take it back apart to show you how to do it. You had those four metal cup plates, one supposed to go on the bottom, one supposed to go on top. With this style, you're not going to use the top ones. You are going to use your stock bolts out of your old risers. So you're going to take those stock bolts out. Make sure to clean that red thread locker off those bolts. You're going to put the bolt in through the cup, into the riser with a little bit of red Loctite. I use the Loctite 262 on those, and it just takes a couple of drops on each bolt. So once again, bolt bottom cup through the bushing, through the metal spacer in the middle, through the top bushing, and then into the riser and torque it down. So very easy to do. That's now ready to go. The biggest thing is making sure that you put your riser the correct way. Remember, this is the front of your bike, this is the back. So now we're going to start taking our handlebars apart, and these come apart very easy. We're going to take that Torx 25 and we're going to remove this top screw and this bottom screw. Once you do that, you can pull that switch housing face off, and then with this little top switch right here, you want to make sure this is pushed up, and then you're just going to push out like that, and it will come off. Then you can slide this back side off. You want to gently pull that off. Okay, so when we're pulling the wires through these, normally I just take a nylon string like this. I'm going to take a nut, I'm going to put it in here. Just going to let that gravity, no need to blow it through because it's such a short handlebar. We can pull this back. And sometimes get it, there we go. Get a piece of that Testa tape. I'm going to put the string on it. So once I get that started in there, push past this hole, I'll go ahead and feed this one in right behind it. And usually just pulling and pushing this one will pull this one through too. It just kind of, it's thick and it just kind of grabs everything and it works out. So you can see that I'm pushing this one, but it's also pulling this one too. We got plenty of room. Now we're down here at the bottom, we're coming out. Now our switches are down here, so I can take my needle nose, try to grab that tape. Get that lined up down there. I'm going to finish pulling this. We'll pull that back out. We kind of want it to go all at the same time. So down here, this one's starting to get closer to that edge. We're just going to grab both. We're going to pull that throttle position sensor into place. We're going to turn these notches until they fall into place. Go ahead and get your string off that side. We'll go ahead and do the other side now. Come out down there. Another piece of tape. Make sure you got the right end around the string. Feed it in. Go ahead and pull it through. Just like that. Super easy on that side. So from here we're going to go ahead and put our switch housing covers back on. Do not tighten these up. You're just going to put them on, put the screws in, so basically they just don't fall apart. We're going to do this side, same thing. Front switch housing on. We're going to slide the back on. Flip this over. Get everything lined up. So basically, like I said, just kind of run them in to where they'll stay like that, because we have to adjust these after we get them put on the bike. This part right here can be a tad bit tricky because these wires are all meant to go down these risers and come out these holes. So get it up here, get this one to feed through, come down here in the bottom and come out. Just gives you a lot cleaner install. We're going to do the same thing with this side as well. So if I turn this so you can see what I'm doing, basically I fed this wire through the riser and out this hole down the bottom. You got the same thing on this side, which is going to have to get my needle nose to get that wire out. It's definitely a lot easier if you got more hands, somebody to hold this riser while you do this. But just going to take our time and we can get it done. So then we can take our gauge housing. As you can see, it's curved on the back side there. This is actually going to act like the top clamp. So we're going to set this in and make sure we have it exactly where we want it. So we're over here to the bike real quick, because as I was putting the handlebars on over there on the table, I started to notice a little bit of an issue. We put the Thrashin bars on here, and of course, like I said, this top gauge housing is actually the top clamp. So when we set it in there, first I had it kind of tilted down like this, and I couldn't really get it up where it was supposed to go, so I took it back off and I put it up here where it's supposed to go. So the issue I'm having is the Thrashin bars, to me, they're not going to be compatible, because the way that these bars come out and then immediately start going up and then out compared to the Arlen Ness bars, they go out farther and then they go up at a more steep of an incline and then out. So it goes out farther to clear this gauge housing. The gauge housing, like I said, is the top clamp. So when I put this on, this is hitting the back of this, and it's not allowing this to go all the way down, as you can see. And I don't know that it'll go all the way down even with the other bars in there, but still that's a pretty big gap. And if I roll them forward to get them off the back of the gauge housing, the curve in the bar itself just kind of pushes the gauge housing out even farther. So I don't know if anybody out there's had any luck running the Thrashin bars with this Arlen Ness setup, but I've already been on the phone and I've already got a set of the welded Arlen Ness bars coming. So now I just have to wait for the bars to come in, and then we'll finish this project. So I'll be back in 2 shakes with new bars. And just like that, we're back and we got brand new Arlen Ness bars on the bike. I got the bars in yesterday. I just went ahead and took everything back off, pulled the wires back out, pulled all the wires back through these bars. It's going to be the same thing as wiring the other bars. Really easy to do. A little bit more of a bend on these, but not hard to do. So I wasn't going to re-record all of that, pulling the wires and putting your switch housing and stuff back on. It's all the same. You can get these in black, you can get them in raw, and you can get them in raw welded. Now these raw welded bars cost a little bit more than the other two, but they match our just raw welded side pipe that we have on here. So earlier we ran the wires through the bars and then down the actual risers inside here. And we have a couple of extensions that we need to add as well. So we have this NAMS gauge extension wire right here. Then it's going to go to the back of the gauge housing and has to go down the inside of this riser as well. This has the connectors on both ends, so I can already tell right off the bat we're going to have to de-pin one side of this to get that through there. The other two extensions are going to be your harness extensions. We need those as well, so we can tuck all of this stuff down in behind the headlight. You don't want all these wires up here on top. You want to be able to tuck all this stuff in behind the headlight so it makes that a very clean install. Now these two extensions right here are for your switch housings, those two connectors, but that's going to give it a really super clean install where you don't have this big bundle of wires up here on top. It's all going to tuck behind the headlight. That's why we took the outer fairing off. So I'm going to cut the camera, I'm going to de-pin one of these, and we're going to get that wire ran just to save some time in this video, and then we'll be right back. So I just want to get this in the camera real quick just to show you how to do this. You have these two different ends, of course. You have a male and a female, and these are way back down in there, and you can get to those if you have a long enough pin to get down in there to get it. But if you just do the male end, it's a lot easier. So basically, I separated the wires top from bottom with like this screwdriver like this, and then I took a picture of it to see where those wires go in. Flip it over, do the same thing on the other side because you want to be able to put these back in the same spot. These two little white pins right here are going to be poked through on this side. Just squeeze them together and separate it, and you can pull the gray side off, and then you can slide the rubber back off of that. This one is super easy because you don't have to de-pin every single one of these pins with a needle. It's kind of a pain, like I said, but you got this little blue clip right here on the end. If I pull this back enough, get my hands on this, and I take a little flathead screwdriver, I'm going to stick it under that blue tab, and I'm going to lift up and pull that out like that. Once you have that blue tab out, you can start pulling these wires straight out, as you can see. Super easy to do the male side versus de-pinning the female side. So once again, I'm going to cut the camera, take it over to my desk, get all this done. We'll get it fed through on the bike and get it put back together, and I'll be right back. So basically I de-pinned this and I just fed it up through the middle. This is stiff enough to just feed it up right next to the other harness, poked it through and re-pinned it. Now we can pull this one back down. We want to get our handlebars back into place. Leave yourself enough slack over here to come over and go up and plug into your gauge housing, which goes in the back of the top clamp. See the hole right here? It's going to go through, come up, plug in. Doing this by yourself is a little bit tricky to do, but in the end, this is going to be a super clean setup. You won't have this big jumble of wires coming down that you see on a lot of the bikes. I'm going to put that through that hole, right? Get this up into place. Make sure that your handlebars are centered. You can usually just kind of look at the groove in there. We're going to do that. We're going to get a couple of these bolts started. So once we have 4 bolts in, we're going to get these bars up here where we want them. I'm just going to go back and forth in a crisscross pattern to make sure that this top clamp goes down even. Boy, the inside edge of that gauge bezel is sharp. I just sliced my knuckle wide open. So thank you, Arlen Ness, for that. So we're going to make ourselves a little garage band-aid, and if you've never made a garage band-aid, just get yourself a piece of paper towel and some electric tape, and wrap it around there. Garage band-aid blends right in. You can't even tell that I have it on there. Got those on there, and those were pre-loaded up with a little blue Loctite. We got the back side of the gauge housing bolts. There's 3 of those. You can see on the back side of the gauge. We got our gauges in the front gauge housing here. We're going to go ahead and plug this in. You got 1 bolt center in the front, preloaded up with a little blue Loctite. Go ahead and put that one in, and we got 2 in the bottom rear. So what I've done up in here while I had the camera off was take off all the white stickers that Harley puts on all the cables. You want to make sure all that's off, because right up here in the top, right in front of the triple tree, there's a hole, and all of these cables have to be pushed down into that in through that square neck hole that you see behind your headlight up there. So after I get this stuff plugged in, we're going to pull it down through that hole, push it up through that neck hole, and get it stored behind the headlight in there. Basically up here you've got a lot of plugs that aren't going to be reused, because you had your ignition switch, which is this one over here, so that's not going to be reused, and these two big ones are not going to be reused. Those went to your 3 switches on each side. So basically you're only going to be using the stuff that you pulled out of your handlebars right here. So it's very easy to do. So when we pull our switch housing ones through here, we've got the double one, remember, and the single one. So if you look on this side, this one has the double, so we're going to plug it in here. Now our other switch housing goes to the single one on this side. So now we've got our gauge cluster plugged in. We got our right side switches, our throttle side switches, our left side switches up here. Can't really mess this up because all of these plugs up here are pretty well different, except for the left side and the right side switch housing wires, but you have that double and that single. Let's get over here to the front of the bike and let's get this headlight removed so we can get those wires pulled up through there. Front, so right here on the top of your headlight, you may have a little metal plate here with some stuff on it. That's all connected to these little plastic tabs. This one's been out before because we've got an aftermarket Advan black headlight on here. So we're just going to take our little plastic pry tool. We're going to get that little Christmas tree prong off right there. Now we have a bolt here, 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 and here. That's going to be a 3/16 Allen, so we're going to go ahead and get that removed. Almost forgot, the most important thing you can do is cover up that fender, and I'm the clumsy one enough to drop something and hit that fender, so let's get that covered up. I'll let this headlight pull forward, and then just simply reach back here, disconnect this. These are our turn signals up here at the top. We're going to disconnect those and get that headlight out of the way. So this is what I was saying a while ago. Your 2 main harness wires right here that go in this little neck hole and then go up to that steering column. You got to pull those wires down. So we're going to pull these down out of the way. We're going to start poking those wires from the top, and we're going to pull them up into this neck area here. So I've taken my wires one at a time and I pulled them down through that hole by just standing at the side of the bike, just basically on that side. So I'm pushing on the wires over here, I'm reaching up in here, and I'm pulling these wires out. Now we're going to reinstall our headlight. Pull our headlight wire down. Going to get this plugged in. We'll worry about plugging these turn signals in later. Just make sure that it's up on top. I'm going to push that satellite wire out of the way. Get your little prongs lined up here on both sides. In the beginning of this video, I showed you a set of Vans grips, and I got them out and I honestly didn't really care for them. So I got these from Harley Davidson. I picked these up yesterday, and these are the Get a Grip Magnum Black. I'll put a link down in the description down below to these as well, but you can put any kind of grip you want on there. But let's get the bike lowered down and let's get these installed. Our grip has to set in this groove on this side. So I'm just going to set that to the side. We're going to make sure this is pushed all the way in. We're going to take our grip. We're going to run it all the way in until it comes into contact with the end of this. So put our front switch housing plate on, and you can see how that switch housing holds that grip on, right? So when we tighten this down, this can't come off. We're going to go ahead and get these 2 screws started. Now remember, at the beginning of the video I told you you had to get the little short perch clamps for the front. It's because these long ones come on the Road Glide, and you can see that if I put that on there, it goes past the bend in the bars. So that's why you have to get rid of these. So the back side of this has this little square. The back side of this is cut out. That pushes on that pin in there. So we want to make sure that we tuck this into place before we roll it over and put it on the bar. So we got that tucked. Once again, if you're doing this by yourself, it can be a little tricky to hold all of this. That's why I cover up the tank, because I'm constantly dropping stuff, and if you're doing this by yourself, I'm having to hold all this together, make sure it's all in the right spot. I'll get over here and kind of eyeball my switches to make sure that those are where I want them. You want to make sure you have good, quick, smooth snapback in both directions. Some grips that you buy on the market, the left side will slide on and glue on. A like our actual Arlen Ness grips that we use on the Street Glide, this side's glued on. Now this style from Harley actually sets inside that switch housing. So right here, you've got this little groove here and this little groove here. That's gonna set right here at the bottom. So make sure this is setting just like that. So it's straight across like horizontal. You're gonna set that into place. This little edge should catch on that little tooth. You wanna make sure this is slightly turned back. Push that all the way on. Get your switch housing up into place. Make sure that that little groove sets underneath that tooth. We're going to put it past it, and then we're going to roll that tooth back up to it, and that's going to keep your grip from spinning while you're going down the road. Now all this is super tight, so you don't really have to worry about this spinning, but that's how it's designed to go on. We're going to get the front housing on. Pull our perch back up into place. Now this one does have this little tooth groove right here on the back side that has to set in here. This pushes on this button, so we just want to put it on the handlebars and kind of roll it back into place. Just like that. You'll feel it seat down in there. Then you can grab your short clamp. So I moved the camera over here to the side. You can see that I round up the rest of my wires coming from here into the neck with that black Tessa tape. Gives it a nice clean automotive style look instead of like plastic wire loom or electric tape. But you can wrap up those wires however you want. The final thing I want to do is go ahead and torque these bolts where we put this top triple tree on. We've got 2 on the forks, and that's going to be a pinch bolt, so you want to go back and forth on those. These are going to be 18 to 20 foot-pounds. You got the top and the bottom torque, but we're going to go back to the top and see it's moved another quarter, and it's clicked back to the bottom again. And you want to do that back and forth until you get a click on both of them on the first push. The one up here at the top is going to be 22 to 26 foot-pounds. One ugga-dugga. We got our little trip switch cover to put on back here in the back just to kind of finalize this. We're going to go ahead, you're just going to put it on the end and slide it back in just like the same way it came off. You're going to listen for that click, make sure that it's on, and you can push it up and down. Arlen Ness has provided a cover for the neck bearing top up here, so we're going to swing around here and put that on. It just has a little Allen set key that holds that on. So we're going to slide this into place, make sure the set screw is pretty much straight down so I can get to it from this back side, and it kind of hides that set screw too. Grab your bottom fairing skirt and 2 of these bolts. Slide this back up into place. You should be able to get your hand in there and get that started. When we get it off the lift, I'll be able to turn the handlebars and tighten those down. Slide it up into place. I'm going to grab those bolts that go underneath the speaker just to kind of hold everything in place until we get it all on. Make sure that you reconnect your turn signals. So I think we pretty well got everything covered that you're going to need to do to get the Arlen Ness bars on your road glide. All the tools I used today will be linked down in the description down below as well. Of course, all of the links to all of these parts will also be in the description as well, so make sure to check that out. So if you have any questions on this install, you know the deal, comment section down below. I'll try to help you the best that I can. Check out the rest of the YouTube channel. We got a ton of content on here, and it's not just install stuff. We do have a lot of maintenance stuff as well. Make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, tell your friends about us. That's what keeps us coming out here and doing these videos for you. I'm going to get out of here and get myself back to work. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, as always, be safe, keep your knees in a breeze. Hey, thanks for stopping by and checking out our videos today. If you like what you see, make sure you hit that like button, hit the little subscribe button popping up over here. If you want to check out more of our content, I've got 2 videos right here that'll get you started. Not really going to say anything else, just click one of those videos and take you to another video.